Hi, I'm Gloria Strode and welcome to Straightforward. We have a very important issue on the ballot, November 8th, and today my very special guests are the co-chairs of the Keep the Freeze Committee, Ms. Charmaine Crabb, Realtor, and Tollie Strode Jr. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so we are here to continue to educate the public. There is so much misinformation out in the community. I thought that it was important that we have another conversation to ensure that we could clear up some of those myths and some of that intentional information that's been put out there to intimidate and threaten renters and those kinds of things. So I just want to make sure that we are explaining to our viewers exactly what the homestead exemption, what the freeze is, because we assume, because we live in that world, that everyone else knows what that is. So Charmaine, share with our audience all of that great information about the homestead, the freeze.
I think the things that I keep on seeing over and over is that people do not understand that the freeze applies to personal residences only.
Okay.
It does not apply to commercial residents. It does not
Commercial properties.
Commercial property or investment properties or anything like that. It is a very small amount, it's a very specific thing that it applies to.
Okay.
And it was applied to those personal residents because people were getting taxed out of their homes. And
when we were going through the period of when inflation was out of control.
Hyperinflation of the 1980s. They were getting taxed out of their homes. So it was brought in to protect homeowners. Because homeowners are the foundation of any community.
Right.
We have a transient community with Fort Benning coming in and out. They're never here for very long. They come here, stay here, and then leave. But then we have some retirees that come in afterwards.
And just decide to stay.
And they become permanent. So this was set up so that those people that are the permanent residents of Muscogee County have this freeze to protect them, and then in turn protect our city.
Right, because when there was the market had the big bust from all of the mortgages and that kind of thing, that was a problem across the United States. That had nothing to do with the local property tax freeze.
No, actually, because of the property tax freeze, it actually protected our city.
Right.
And you will see that all over the United States, cities were going bankrupt.
Yes.
Because they were not able to collect the property taxes. And
a lot of properties were abandoned and people just walked off and left them. So we had the stability of those tax dollars, property tax dollars, that our community was guaranteed.
Exactly.
That our tax assessor got all the money and we were able to survive that big crash.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is a beautiful piece of legislation.
And we voted on it twice.
Yes. It protects homeowners as long as they stay in their homes. It protects the city from losing money during a recession. It allows for growth.
Right.
Even with the freeze in effect, the city still brings in $1 to $2 million more each year in just homestead exempt properties.
Really?
Yes, we have it. There is the system in place that you have attrition when somebody sells their property.
Right.
Then it goes back into the fair market value system, sold, and then frozen there at that purchase price.
So when someone else buys, if you sell today and then I buy your house, if you sell me your house, then once I buy the house, we close on it, then I'm protected by that freeze.
Right. Then it's refrozen at the new price.
Right.
And then also, while you're living in your house, if you make a major improvement on your home, then they come out, they reassess the improvement,
right.
They add that to the already frozen amount, and then it gets refrozen. So
it creates a new amount. If you add a swimming pool, a solarium, which is a glass room, and that's great because some of my neighbors have those. I don't have that. But then they are reassessed when they make modifications on their house
Right.
at what the new assessed value is.
Right.
So to say that the city is not making any money because we're just stagnant, that's not true.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
It grows. It increases.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just homestead exempted properties. It gives $1 to $2 million more into the city budget
Right.
every year for the past 10 years,
Right.
and that is without a millage rate increase.
Okay.
They have not increased the millage rate for 10 years.
And the millage rate is pretty high, isn't it, Tollie?
Yeah,
So we're
it's
almost
just
at,
about it's just
almost
about
at
its
its highest
maximum,
level.
and they have some add-ons beyond what we're paying for the operating fund for the city, the operating fund for the school. There's some special allocations in there that are generating additional funds. But here's a good point to understand. We've been told that Columbus isn't growing. All of the facts about what's happening in this city point to the opposite. Our property tax revenue has grown 66%. I mean, at the end of the year, the amount that we are the amount that the city is taking in property tax revenue is 66% higher than what it was in 2001.
Okay.
Now, to me, that sounds like growth, and it
Right.
validates what you've just said, that you have turnover in these homes that are under the freeze. Yes, they get refrozen, but typically it's at a higher valuation. So, you know, the point that we wanted to make in this particular edition of Straightforward, which is informing folks about what's really going on and helping them make a decision wide open about how they're going to vote. The idea that we have not grown, all of the evidence points to the contrary.
That's a dishonest comment.
Absolutely.
Right. And so how do they calculate? Explain how that works with, you have to apply for the homestead exemption.
Right.
Then you qualify for what you can afford, and when you're purchasing a house, because that's what the mortgage
The
companies.
calculation is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
There's a appraisal
Okay.
at 100% of the value. 40% of that turns into the assessed value. And you'll hear two different terms. Appraised value, 100% appraised value, and then assessed value. Okay. So after that, there are homestead exemptions applied, and then after that, you have the millage rate that's applied.
You
And
take the calculation from the state. This is a state calculation.
Right.
Not local.
Right.
It's 40% of the fair market value or the sales price times the millage rate, and then you subtract out the exemptions.
Okay.
That's it.
And you apply for the exemptions.
You have
Right.
to apply for these exemptions.
the homestead exemption,
The homestead
or,
exemption.
you know, whatever other
Right, because we do have some veterans and some
The
seniors.
homestead
over
exemption, when you apply for the homestead exemption, that's what freezes it.
Okay.
But there are other homestead exemptions.
Right. We know there
I
are
mean,
the
not homestead exemptions, but there are
other exemptions for veterans and things like that. Okay, well, what we're going to do now, we're going to go to our first break, and we'll be right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Chalk by Quincy introduces Excellence Redefined, timepieces of the finest technology, luxury, and class with tons of style at chalklifestyle.com. Renal Associates, LLC, a team of physicians dedicated to excellent kidney care with 5 convenient locations to serve you. Stark Avenue, Columbus, Bradley Park, Columbus, Lafayette Parkway, LaGrange, East Burkhalter Avenue, Buena Vista, and Springs Street in Warm Springs. Thai Cuisine, the area's only authentic Thai restaurant. Open for lunch and dinner, Monday through Saturday, located in the Village Green Shopping Center on the 280 bypass in Phoenix City.
To represent a home of distinction requires highly qualified real estate professionals with unique experience and local expertise. Elite Ventures Realty is now Prestige Property Brokers, here to assist with buying or selling, construction of your dream home, or building a real estate investment portfolio. And Prestige also offers certified relocation agents to proudly serve our military families. Contact Prestige Property Brokers to begin your next real estate journey.
Welcome back to Straightforward. We're continuing our conversation on a very important matter, keeping the freeze, vote no. And Sandi Green, a veteran real estate person, has joined us in this conversation with our Charmaine. And I was at a forum this past weekend, and I heard another real estate agent say that this freeze had caused you all to not make money, that it was a barrier for this community. And in my humble opinion, I always thought that that was a wonderful selling point. So share with our audience your perspective on that.
I personally have never had a problem with anybody even talking about the freeze. Most people learn about the freeze when they go to closing on their house. When people are being qualified for the mortgage that they can afford, the taxes are added in there. That's generally when people find out exactly what their taxes are going to be. Some people are horrified by the amount that our taxes are, but that's just all part of the process of being pre-qualified.
Right. And so that gives them the security, is what you were saying, Charmaine, at one of the community events, that they know what the taxes will be, they know what the mortgage they qualified for, and you're qualifying for your mortgage, not your neighbor's mortgage.
Right.
Do you want to share with us on that?
Well, the way it works now is when you're basically being pre-qualified on your income. And then when you buy the house, it's frozen. What they're wanting to do is change that so that you're not frozen and that it'll be under a fair market value system.
Okay, now explain to our audience what that is, because we don't want to leave no stone unturned.
Well, we do use the fair market value system here in Muscogee County. When Sandi and I are getting ready to go for a listing, then we will look at the comparables around the area, and we will then approach the seller and say, okay, based on the comparables, we think that your house will sell between this amount and that amount.
Okay.
And then, so that's using the fair market value system.
And that's what you do before you list the house, before it's put on the market
Correct.
for sale. Okay.
And then, you know, so, but what is different here when it comes to the personal residence, the fair market value system, the fair market value is kind of slash sale price.
Okay.
So the sale price kind of shows us what the fair market value is.
Okay.
And then that's frozen. But that's only in residential, you know, personal residence.
Once
It
the
doesn't
house
work
is
on
purchased,
commercial.
right, once the
Right.
house is purchased, then it's frozen.
Right.
But you all use the fair market system
To value property.
to value the property when you're getting ready to list it. If I call and say I want to sell my house, then you'll look at the comps, the comparables in my area, and say we can probably put it on the market and sell it for this. And then if John Q. Jones comes and buy my house, once he buys it at whatever that price, and you've all looked at the fair market value, then he is frozen once we close at
Right.
the closing table. at
And the
that.
fair market valuation is used on all other properties, you know, because as personal residents that are frozen, they're the only ones that don't get assessed, you know, at a different price anymore.
Right.
But all the other properties around town,
Commercial.
they're getting assessed every year.
Okay.
They're assessed on the fair market value system. That's why you get these comments that the taxes are unfair because two people on the same street, one is paying less and one is paying more in taxes. You can only tell those differences because of the fair market value system.
Right, and how long the person has been there.
Right.
Because we live in a community where there are a lot of retired military, but there are a lot of young officers that's coming and going, and they come to Fort Benning and they stay a couple years and they leave. Well, when you've been in your house 20 years and the other person came and they've only been there 2 years, then, you know, that's not fair. It's because what? We've been paying the whole time when the other people were not there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for 37 years.
So you truly are a subject matter expert. So you have seen this over the years.
Yes, yes. And to tell you the truth, there's only a small portion of the people, of the houses that are under homestead exemption. There's 35,000 houses in Columbus that are under
Okay.
homestead exemption. Our mayor says that 75% of those people are paying for the 25%. Well, those 25% are actually people that have been in their houses a very long time. So when we're talking about unthawing the freeze, it's our elderly that
Right.
are being hurt the most. And I just don't see how anybody could tax the elderly out of their own homes. I mean,
Right.
that is just unforgivable.
And I think
Like,
that
don't-
statement is not fair, because when they bought those houses, my first job out of college, I made $13,000 a year, and that was in 1976. That was a lot of money.
Right.
You know, so it's all relative. So yeah, the value of the dollar is not that great now, but back, you know, when we were children, you could probably get a loaf of bread for a dime, and milk probably was 25 cents. So to say they're not paying their fair share, I really think is dishonest
Well,
and it's
and besides
disrespectful.
that, those people that have been paying those taxes for so long, they have paid for all of the amenities that young people enjoy in the community today.
Exactly.
So people seem to forget that. Those
Exactly.
people have paid their taxes for a long time when their taxes went a long way.
Exactly.
Now taxes are higher because prices are higher, and all of that's understandable. But this was put into being for a protection for the homeowner, and so that people didn't lose their homes because of rapid inflation and that kind of thing. So,
Right.
How anybody would want to get rid of a protection for a homeowner, I just really don't understand.
Well, another thing they're saying is that it's the freeze that has caused these houses to go up. That has nothing to
that has
do. The
nothing
freeze
to
has
do with it.
absolutely nothing to do with the pricing of houses. All the freeze does is it holds your tax assessment at one level as long as you own the home.
Right. And
It's-
everyone
it's
gets
not
that.
part
and
of
that's
the calculation.
It's not treating two groups differently.
No.
And so it is fair,
when-
because if you buy a house today, you're frozen. If you buy a house today, you're frozen.
And
If I
when
buy
that
one
house
tomorrow.
sells, it is then the highest priced and highest taxed property in the neighborhood. So it's all being fixed by attrition. In fact, I think some of the things that y'all talked about earlier in the program said that
Right.
this is being handled by attrition. It's
Right.
going up. The tax collections are going up every year, and that's because the elderly are dying, going into nursing homes, going to live with their children.
Right.
And at that point, when their house is sold, then they are the
Right.
highest priced house in the neighborhood.
Exactly, and it goes into the market. And I want to go back to what you said about they paid for the infrastructure.
Exactly.
Columbus Square used to be on Macon Road, which is now where the library, city services, and the school board is there.
Right.
That used to be the mall. But before that was the mall, it was Cross Country Plaza.
Exactly.
That used to be a 2-lane road.
Correct.
There was no Peachtree Mall. There was not an Interstate 185, which we know that's, you know, at a state department of transportation or whatever. But there was not a Columbus Park crossing. So
When I moved here, there wasn't even a Target.
I know, right? It wasn't even a TJ Maxx at one time. So a lot of that money that they paid for those properties is what you're absolutely right. It paved the way for what we have today.
Exactly.
Right. Well, ladies, I want to thank you all so much for sharing that perspective, because 37 years in real estate, and then Charmaine actually came from the West Coast
Right.
to here in real estate, and so she's seen it from coast to coast.
Correct.
So we just have to make sure we continue to get that word out. And I thank you so much, Sandy, for coming and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Warrior Outreach. Contact Command Sergeant Major Retired Sam Rhodes or Kathy Rhodes. Freedom Printing for all of your designer printing needs. Gunboat Plaza, Suite 18. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road. Trusted by generations. And welcome back to Straightforward. We are continuing our conversation on a very important ballot question. Do you want to keep your freeze or not? Now, just want to say you will not see, do you want to keep your freeze? Yes or no. They were very tricky with the way they worded the question, and it says, shall the act? And so it's the last question on the ballot, and we are encouraging you to protect your home. Do not be fooled by the scam and greed, and vote no to keep your freeze. All right, so we have found during research, that's one of your favorite things to do, is that there are some other counties in the state of Georgia that have the freeze.
Right, there's 34 of the 159 counties in the state of Georgia that have some form of a tax freeze.
Not exactly like ours, but some form.
Some are like it, some are not.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that their objective is to protect homeowners from fluctuations in the market and stop their assessed value, their appraised value from driving their taxes up.
Where it forces them out of their home.
Potentially,
And
yes.
when people do not pay the property taxes, this is not Gloria Strode, you may verify this with Lula Huff, our tax commissioner. If you do not pay your taxes, they can auction your house off on the courthouse steps. I mean, and that happens a lot. A lot of investors go around and buy property in various communities and counties throughout Georgia.
There's actually an industry that's centered on, tax properties that have been taken by a community, taken by either a county or by the state.
Right.
And,
Private
you're
investors.
out on the street, someone's buying your home.
And for just the unpaid taxes.
Right.
Right, even though it could be paid for.
And let's talk about
Okay.
a good example of what's going on in the state of Georgia right now.
Okay.
A while back, we talked about DeKalb County, which renewed their property tax freeze.
Right.
Now, there's some uniquenesses there. Their freeze only applies to the county taxes.
Okay.
The city and the school taxes
Are not frozen. Okay.
frozen, with the exception of one community, and that's the one that we'll talk about. DeKalb had a surge in property values, and that's continued. And then they went on and renewed their tax bill, and
Tax freeze.
or tax freeze. And the interesting thing is that some of the representatives and senators that
From our area.
that allowed this bill to come up for a vote, they actually supported.
Okay.
DeKalb
So let
County.
me clear that up. So our legislators from Muscogee County, Columbus, Georgia,
Right.
actually put our freeze
On the ballot.
in jeopardy on the ballot to be voted away. But some of those same people voted in the Atlanta metro area to help them to get a freeze.
To get a
Yeah,
free,
let
or
me-
to keep their free.
To keep their
Let me
freeze.
explain the difference between what DeKalb's tax freeze is and ours is. Ours is a constitutional amendment.
Okay.
It's a local constitutional amendment. That means the citizens have the power.
Right.
We are the only ones that can vote this out.
Okay.
Vote it out. We
Right.
have to have it on the ballot and vote it out in order to lose it. Those, they have to ask the legislature every time
To
if
renew
they can
it.
renew it.
Okay.
So the people are in control in Muscogee County. The legislature is in control in all the other counties.
Okay, so we are really blessed. This is an awesome gift.
If we lose this, we'll never get it back.
Because what they put on the ballot will really repeal it. And we
Yes.
could never,
Right.
we can't go back.
No,
So
because
when they say,
they've closed that door in the Constitution.
okay, and so when they say, well, if you got it, you can keep it, this group will have it, but that group won't have it, this has been before the Georgia State Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court, and they've ruled that the freeze is fair because it treats everybody the same.
Right.
So if we try to go to two systems, then it's discriminatory. And so the chances are the courts are going to throw it out, and then no one will have the freeze.
Right, and we won't be able to go back to the constitutional amendment.
won't.
Right.
That door's been
That's
closed.
a done
Right.
deal if they pass this. So John Pizzo, Debbie Buckner, Richard Smith, Ed Harbison, and Josh McCoon voted to support the DeKalb
renewing their form of whatever the freeze was.
Right.
Okay.
Josh McCoon was consistent there.
Yeah. And
Because
Richard,
he didn't vote. He voted against putting it on our ballot, and he voted for them to extend it.
Right.
Josh McCoon believes that in a limited assessment value taxation system.
so let's take a look at what's happening now.
Okay.
And it's a very important point. I'm just going to give you an idea of what's happening. Countywide in DeKalb, prices have gone up 17% in just 1 year. So the reality is that inflation is starting to show up in that county.
And that's for the areas that's not frozen. Because again,
That's
you
right.
said it's not the school and the city
Right.
portion of the taxes that's frozen.
Right.
It's only the county portion.
Right.
Is that what you said?
That's correct.
So that's how those others can fluctuate.
Well,
And that's different from ours.
But remember now, we're talking about the appraised value. We're talking about the appraised value has gone up 17%. So you're seeing that ripple down into the total amount of tax.
I think that our freeze prevents that from happening here in Muscogee.
Right,
It prevents
right.
us from
There's
seeing
no
the impact.
advantages.
Right.
There's no
Right.
advantages
Right.
For
So
us
the
to do that.
price of our homes can go up based on what's happening with the market, but what it's assessed at for taxes,
Right.
okay, for calculation of taxes, it stays. Now, you have a lot of people in DeKalb County that they don't know what's going to happen to them because they are under that portion that is not under the freeze. The taxes are going up. So I'm going to read to you what one lady is saying. Her name is Gina Swartz. She complained at a recent meeting that about the details of how her taxes are assessed. Why am I paying bigger taxes when nothing has changed in my home? We continue to drive the
And
people.
that's the one in DeKalb County.
That's in DeKalb
Okay.
County. You know, if you haven't done anything to your house, why should you be paying
And
higher
that's our
taxes?
same argument here in
Right.
Columbus.
That's
Yeah.
what will happen if
We thaw the freeze. Exactly.
That's exactly what will happen.
And Sharon Brecky, who is a senior citizen, she is saying they'll price me out of the area in a place where I've lived for so many years. I'm not happy about it.
Right.
Seniors that have been in their home for all those years,
They're
when
gonna
you
be
start to see
displaced.
the market, they're going to be displaced.
Because they won't be able to afford the taxes
It's a
if we
practical
go.
reality
Right.
of not having the freeze in place. You are open to whatever happens in the market, and we are trying to get people to understand that this is not something about the mayor. This isn't anything except
And it's
about
not about
what's
social
happening.
acceptance.
Yeah,
This is about
this
protecting
is about
your
your
home.
This is about you and where you lay your head. So you need to vote in your best interest.
And
Now-
that vote would be vote no, keep the freeze. It's the last item on the ballot. Please, please, please. If you're not sure, it will say the act shall. And what you'll see on the screen, and during this show, you will have seen all the different drop-ins. Make sure that you read the ballots very carefully, and we're asking you to please do not be fooled. Vote no, keep the freeze. Well, I want to thank you all so much. I'm so sorry we're out of time, but we got to get out in the community and continue to keep working. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This has been straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.